Good. So today, we're going to talk about sleep. Okay? So, at NAM, we are all about self-therapy. Self-therapy is really about sleep. Sleep therapy. In that sleep is the therapy. So when our brain is active throughout the day, we learn things, we have experience, we collect it, and then it's in sleep that it becomes integrated. So नींद विच वो पक्का हो जाता. So when we sleep, that information becomes sorted out and controlled. So the average human, they say, will use something like 5% of the brain, but in sleep, that will go up temporarily. In sleep. So you use more of your brain in the sleep than you use when you are awake. You use more of your brain in sleep than you are in awake, because in the sleep it's figuring out, okay, you argued with the wife today, what you learned from that. In sleep, oh, okay, I learned that she doesn't like this. So you have that conversation, you talk to your wife. In sleep, that learning goes deep. And if your sleep is good, it becomes deeply programmed. So the next day you think, okay, no, I'm not going to go and do that. That thing that I was doing was no good. Created stress. And so then you won't. That's because your sleep it processed it. Without the sleep, what would have happened is you got into a big fight, argument with your spouse, and it remains like that. It kacha rehanda, it remains undigested. What good is food that's undigested? It's no good. And so the sleep is the process of digesting. Sleep is the process of digesting experience, so that we can go tomorrow a little bit further ahead than today. So if your sleep is bad, not restive, you don't wake up feeling refreshed, then you will not learn from your experiences. And so people say to me all the time, I've been in this marriage for 25 years. It feels like the time is we just got married yesterday. 25 years of fighting and this and that. Where did it all go? It just happened. And that the answer is the chronic stress from all that stuff and maybe the drinking and everything impaired the sleep process, kept you from digesting the experience and learning, and so every day you just repeat the same thing. Wake up, argue with the wife, go to work, come back, argue with the wife, drink yourself into sleep, and repeat. You can pass 20 years like that, just like that. Whether it's drinking or drugging or gambling or shopping, anyone, man or woman, you can pass a lot of your life not learning, and so time will seem like it goes fast. So the thing is that when our sleep is not impaired, you have a very powerful therapy tool. So the mind, anything, so a couple of days ago, I think I must have watched a movie like a year or two, a couple of years ago. It had something to do with, I don't know if it was, I can't quite remember, but it was a weird dream that I never usually have. And the dream, it was about a movie that I watched like years ago. But I did not process that movie. And for some reason, all of a sudden, I dreamt about it. And then I had a weird dream, not sure what happened in it, but now I feel like it's gone. That movie that was sitting in my consciousness is now digested. It's gone. It's processed. I've learned what I've needed to learn. We can have experiences anytime. You know, we talk about the subconscious garbage can. Anytime, any of these experiences can pop up into our dreams. So what happens when we sleep is we go from consciousness and we penetrate into our subconsciousness and process some things. And then that happens for a while, and then we go back up into our consciousness. A little bit lighter, because this thing's gone now. That's what the sleep state is for. And so it can be your best friend. But the thing is, as a society, we don't really value sleep. And so I wanted to speak a little bit on sleep. Because anything, so we say this, digesting experience happens. What is experience? Experience is sensory. Sensory input. Anything that you see, smell, feel, touch, well, let's feel, hear, taste. This is what sense, anything that you sense, anything that you see, smell, feel, hear, or taste is like food for your mind to then digest. Anything that you've ever touched, heard, felt in all of your life, none of it is ever forgotten. Do not think for a second your brain has forgotten anything. It has not. It's all the subject of digestion. And just like once you eat something, It's in. Once you eat it, you've swallowed it, you wait, 20 minutes, you can't really vomit it up now. It's going to work its way in your system. If you eat donuts, it's going to be in your system, and your body's going to work with it. It's going to create a bit of cholesterol, clog your heart up a little bit. Anything you see, feel, hear, taste, smell, whether it's from 30 years ago, your experiences are all the subject of digestion. And so at NAM, and certainly at a lot of treatment programs, we're very interested in the past, because what we know is that there's been an incomplete digestion process. Because drinking, drugging, survival, such as amygdala functioning, anything of this is going to shut down the digestion of that experience. Because survival is more important. If you're altering your brain with substances, you're going to stop the process of digestion. And you just stop learning. And if you stop learning, you stay stuck in the same pattern again and again and again. But your problem grows. It doesn't get smaller, it grows. It gets bigger and bigger. There's a lot of interest. Mortgage, principal, interest. So you can't just ignore something. Over time, these things get bigger. Everything gets bigger. Everything that you've ever experienced gets more, and it starts to swell, so then your space gets less. Neurobiologically, you can understand that as the brain aging. The blood vessels become a little bit more clogged. Patches of your brain don't get as much as oxygen. They don't work as well. That's aging. Even a baby ages. If you open up a baby's heart, if they've died of something else, and you do autopsy, you can see in the blood vessels there's a little bit of cholesterol. They've already begun to age. A baby. Their heart already has some clogging. It's not much, but it is there. So that's the mistake people make. They want to let go of the past. They want to think about the past. Well, first they got to do the work. Because whether you like it or not, it's sitting there. And so sleep is your best friend. A deep, restful sleep. And here's how that works. So I'll draw two kinds of sleep. So this is awake. Awake, and this is deep sleep. And this is shallow. Somewhere over here we'll call it shallow. Shallow meaning not that deep. And so when we sleep in a healthy way, it's a cycle. And it always plays out the same. The length of the cycle, the depth, that's very individual, but the science of sleep is the same. And that is, a healthy sleeper in green will start awake, and this is time. As time goes on, so a healthy person, they'll start their night, and they'll sleep, and they'll go through the stages of sleep. Science says there's 4 stages of sleep and REM. So let's just go with that. So you get deeper and deeper and deeper. You stay in that. And then what happens is you start coming up Maybe not to full, but to something shallow. After 90 minutes, these cycles are 90 minutes, and then it'll go down again for another cycle, but it won't be as deep. So for another 90 minutes, you're going to go down, and you're going to go up again, and then you go down again for another cycle. Again, it won't be as deep. And so over time, depending on how long you have for sleep, it's going to do this, and then you're going to be back to awake. The deepest part of the sleep is this. And this is where the learning happens. This is REM sleep. And as the night goes on, you learn less and less until you're awake. So the most valuable sleep is the first 90 minutes. Next most is the next 90 minutes. The next most is the next 90 minutes. Most of your sleep, if you're a healthy sleeper, the benefit has come in the first 4.5 hours, 6 hours. If you sleep longer, you'll notice it's not as restful sleep. The earliest sleep is the most restful. So now, I just had someone come in and see me. He said, Dr. Gill, I can't sleep. I don't know why. A family member just moved into his house. And so the thing is, someone that he's triggered sometimes by. So a person like that, what happens when there is stress? Let's say there's something stressful bothering you. Someone's in the house, maybe you just had an argument with your wife or your husband. And so then your sleep will be like this. It'll go down, it'll take more time to get down, so you won't sleep as easily. And then it won't go as deep. And it'll be the same pattern. And then awake. So that's the sleep of someone who is disturbed. Disturbed because stress causes you to be closer to awake. But stress will shut down your brain, and it won't be able to fully get to high activity because stress shuts down your frontal cortex. And even when you sleep, you can be stressed. So, let's say you watch a scary movie. Let's say you read something that bothers you. News is a good example, something that keeps you activated. You watch that, you talk to someone that bothers you on the phone. You know, we do all sorts of things right before we sleep. And this is what we do. We push ourselves up in our stress. That stress affects our ability to get deep. Learning is less. Learning is a lot less. And so then we wake up and we just don't feel refreshed. Not refreshed. When you do things before you sleep, especially right before you sleep, that rev you up, you push yourself up into this. And you can be the world's best recovery person, but if you go to a lot of AA meetings, most AA meetings happen at night, and they involve a lot of coffee. So if you take a substance, a stimulant will push your sleep up too. So coffee. Some people, they tell me, oh yeah, they can sleep. They can drink a big coffee and go to sleep. But their sleep isn't going to be as good. They may not know it. They may not be aware of it, but they're learning less. If you don't look after your sleep, you are learning less. And so the thing is that lots of people come here and they want their recovery to go fast, but every night you have an opportunity to make a really good therapy session. But you need to stop harming your sleep. If you take 2 Zoplicone and knock yourself out, your brain is going to be less active, you know? If you go and you drink a whole bunch, you're reducing your brain activity to 2%, let's say. Drink, if you medicate, you reduce your brain activity to 2%. You've not helped yourself. A person in recovery once said to me, there's a difference between passing out and sleep. When you drink or drug to get yourself to sleep, you pass out. You're reducing your brain activity because you're taking substances that stimulate the GABA receptor that reduce brain activity. Some people do both things. They take a lot of coffee, impairs the ability to relax during sleep, and then they drink too. So it's not surprising. You pay tens of thousands, $20,000 for therapy, but what about sleep? Sleep is your best therapeutic ally. If you take someone with chronic PTSD, what's their sleep look like? Let me tell you. Someone with chronic, like a PTSD, kind of like they're bothered, they have a very full subconscious garbage can. In their sleep, they have all sorts of scary things that come up and down, and it's all kind of messed up. And so what happens is they actually move down, and then they come to awake because they start to process things. They're not deep enough. You know, when you're deep in your sleep, your body is paralyzed. The brain releases these hormones that paralyze your muscles so that you can't walk, you can't move. You've all heard of people who sleepwalk. They have a problem where they're not producing these hormones enough, and so they can be sleeping and talking and walking and doing things all unaware. And so then the next day you say, did you know you said this thing? They say, what? No, I've never said that. Or I don't remember that. When people with full subconsciouses, like a lot of garbage in a lot of unprocessed trauma, as soon as they start to get into the material, they wake up. Because they're not deep sleepers in the beginning, they usually have some kind of, they have a shopping addiction, or they have an internet addiction, or they're doing something to cope with all of the stress. And when they sleep, they're not relaxed. So then they go through these, they wake up lots. Sometimes they get a bit deeper. It's not a smooth cycle, it's messy. And in the end, they're not very, very awake. So that person, how does that person heal? They have to stop offending their sleep. the caffeine needs to go no caffeine after 4 p.m. Sometimes even 12 p.m. The thing people don't understand about caffeine, that's coffee, that's cha, that's the half-life of caffeine, which is an active stimulant, is about anywhere between 4 to 8 hours. Meaning after 8 hours, there's 50% less caffeine in your system. If you drink 80 milligrams, which is an average Starbucks, 80 milligrams of caffeine, after 8 hours, you still have 40 milligrams in your blood. After another 8 hours, you still have 20 milligrams in your blood. After another 8 hours, you still have 10 milligrams. Caffeine is very long-lasting. You drink a lot of caffeine, you are going to be pushing up your sleep cycle. And if you're disturbed, if you got therapy issues and your mental health isn't great, you're addicted or whatever, you shoot yourself in the foot. You prolong your recovery by years. You can shorten your recovery journey by decades if you just get your sleep under control. You stop watching pornography at night. You stop watching television. Stop YouTubing the news. Start meditating, relaxing. If you're religious, do some prayers. Whatever you do in the 2-3 hours before sleep, that's going to increase. So for example, let's say your brain, it wants to process a bad memory. Well, if in the last 2-3 hours just before sleep you do a lot of divine prayer stuff, well, that's fresh in the mind. When the brain goes down deep into this thing and it wants to process like a nightmare, there's a lot of good energy there. There's a lot of good ideas, God and angels and stuff. And so in your dreams, anything can happen, but what's more likely to happen is what you were just doing right in the last few hours before sleep. So if you were engaging in healthy, uplifting, that's the building block of your dream. So then you can go to a bad nightmare of being assaulted, and you can just say, maybe God comes into it. Maybe your higher self comes into it. And it just gets better. Well, if you're really good at that, you can start Xing out these really big things. It doesn't take long. But you got to stop messing with your sleep and start supporting your sleep. Stop looking at medications as the only way you get to sleep. Sure, you know what? If you've been a couple of nights without sleep, take a pill. It's probably better than not. People die if you don't sleep. If you don't sleep for 7 or 8, 10 nights, I think they've done this study in animals. They disrupt their sleep. They actually die. They die after 10 days or something like that. You actually need your sleep. I don't know why they died, those animals, but there's something very deeply rejuvenating about sleep. Much like, it's like if you take a plant, you take a tree, and all you ever give it is sunlight. You don't give it nighttime ever. At some point, it's going to lose juice. It needs to recharge. Recharging happens at night. You need your sleep to recharge in many ways. Science does not understand the least bit about sleep. I'll be the first to tell you that. Science doesn't know much about this. How do you study this? Very difficult. But what we do know tells us that preparing for sleep, doing good sleep hygiene, some of the things I talked about, stopping the coffee, stopping the other intoxicants, smoking is a stimulant, tobacco is a stimulant, it pushes up your sleep the same way. It might help you feel relaxed because you're an addict to it. Lots of people smoke, I just feel relaxed. It's because they were in withdrawal. They get their fix, now they're relaxed, but the physiology, they've pumped it up. They've pushed their curve up. If they were this, they make themselves in the red by smoking. That's why stopping smoking is very important. If you want to address your whole wellness, you have to look at this. A shift worker has to look at their ability to get at least an hour of sleep in the night, move the shifts around, because a shift worker who has disrupted sleep, they live 25% less long than the average population. That's like 20 years less than the average population. Sleep is a big deal. It's a big part of self-therapy. Stop messing with it, with your caffeine, with your smoking, with your drugs, and start doing the things like building a healthy sleep architecture. There's a great video by a guy named Dr. Justin Havens, I think, on sleep that talks about sleep architecture, and we review it in our intensive outpatient program in NOM Academy. So today it's about sleep. So I'm going to just pause for some questions, or hands up if you have questions. Okay, 2 questions. So go ahead, and it's recording, step 1.
Yeah, my question is like you said, it's not take a tea or coffee before sleep. Sometime the doctor or someone recommend to like a coffee, like a green tea, these kind of tea. Is that related? Everything is like a same thing, a tea or?
Yeah. So the thing is green tea has caffeine in it. It is caffeinated. Some green teas are very heavily caffeinated. And so you have to look at the label. If the label says lots of caffeine, maybe you want to find a different kind of green tea. There's non-caffeinated versions of tea. There's all sorts of like herbals and Ayurvedics and traditional Chinese medicine things that can rejuvenate sleep. I'm not talking about all that. There's some valuable things there. A lot of times a green tea is great, but if you look at the caffeine content, if it's a stimulant, it's pushing up your sleep. So a lot of people, green tea is better than coffee, better than espresso, but it still has a fair amount of caffeine in it. So again, and the best thing to do is just experiment and see. There's things that you do. So what is good sleep hygiene? Good sleep hygiene, today I just kind of gave the principles of good sleep hygiene. Sleep hygiene is the best hours to sleep. This is from yoga, is from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. There's energetic reasons for this that I don't understand, but this is what the yogis say. Between those hours is the best time to sleep. Sleep seems to be the most rejuvenating between those times. So no stimulants, preferably before 4 p.m. But the best thing is to just wean yourself off of it. If you're a big coffee drinker, that's a big addiction. Deal with it. Smoking, other stimulants. Good sleep hygiene is things like relaxation before sleep, uplifting, no movies, no news, no social media. Because social media makes you feel inadequate. That's the nature of it. You look at other people's things, you feel like you should have that. That's negative energy. That's going to become the thing that you do in sleep. So if you look at like what things, shopping things to buy and makeup and this and that, all those things become the building blocks of your sleep that you have that night. And instead, change it with like, things like meditation. Instead, meditation. prayer, good food. Try this. Eat a donut and try to go to sleep. And you'll find your dream content is different. It'll be degraded. It'll be less productive. What you eat matters in your sleep. If you eat too much, they say, sleep little and eat little. The yogis. Eat little meaning when you eat a lot and you go to sleep, you'll have a hard time waking up the next day. If you eat a little and then you sleep, the blood can go to your brain. If you eat a lot, the blood all goes to your belly. And that disrupts your sleep. So, your eating patterns. Eating at night is a horrible idea. Snacking at night is a horrible idea because now your brain has to digest, your body has to digest the food. So your sleep's not going to be as deep. You shoot yourself in the foot. You do all this hard recovery work and then you eat at night. Whatever you learned, you're watching this lecture, if your sleep is not good tonight, a lot of this stuff is just going to go, shh. Oh yeah, Dr. Gill said some stuff. If your sleep's good, it'll integrate. So that's a bit of a bigger question around green tea, but I thought it would be a good opportunity. Exercise is a great thing to do. Sometime in the afternoon, let out that excess energy. It's good. Because that excess energy, if you don't let it out, it pushes your cycle up. You become shallower. Other question?
Dr. Gill, I have two things. The first is a statement regarding the movie Inside Out, I believe it's called. It taught me a lot about sleep and the processes that happen in your brain, so an excellent movie for that. The second thing is a question. You mentioned here about learning in your sleep, and you also talk about the subconscious garbage can. I do the flash technique at least twice a day, trying to empty out my subconscious garbage can. Is that the same as learning from sleep, or are those two separate things?
Yeah, great question. One of the best things to do right before you sleep is do flash. Flash will unload some triggers and botherations that you don't even know are bothering you. Flash technique is a beautiful technique to do before sleep. It will help you get deeper into your sleep. So that's number one. Number two, when you sleep learning is kind of like an exchange between long-term, short-term memory, and all the different storage, like they do in the Inside Out movie. You need time to be in there, and you need to be really relaxed for that process to happen. The more burdened it is by a lot of subconscious garbage can stuff, the less efficient it is. So if you can clear some of that out, especially your day-to-day triggers with your flash technique, your sleep will be better and you'll be able to get to deeper and bigger things faster. I'm a doctor, I'm all about efficiency. Good sleep means shorter road of recovery. You want to get to Vancouver, you want to go Highway 1, you better look at your sleep. Optimize your sleep. Use things like flash and other, like tapping and all these things that we say right before you sleep, and your sleep. If you're pray, do these things before you sleep, and your sleep will have, you'll have unburdened a lot of stuff, and then what's left, your sleep system will take care of it very easily. So a lot of people with chronic pain oftentimes have a lot of sleep issues because they have usually a very full subconscious garbage can, and it kind of comes out. So that's my comment. So flash technique, is it the same process? I don't think anyone really knows, but I suspect it's a similar process. Any other questions? Okay, so today Sleep architecture. Good topic, very crucial topic. So thank you all for listening, and we'll be back at it again. And my humblest apologies if I've misspoken, but I think this is very, very important. So thank you.